All right, so I'm back with another market report. I had kind of planned on doing like a market report maybe once a month, but now that I've kind of been watching more and more sales going on, I'm realizing that there's, even trying to do it every couple weeks is going to be pretty difficult. So I think once I hit like 50 sales that I've kind of made a note about, I'll probably just report on them. Otherwise, these videos will just get too long. I'm trying to keep them around 15 minutes. So let's get started here. We've got Spider-Man 300 from Sweden. This must have been a pretty high-grade copy to sell for that much money. The Swedish edition contains 298, 300, and 301. This has, I would say an improved background over the American edition with that kind of color fading Venom in the background. It's a good looking book. So $349, that's a high price in my opinion. But it could have been a real high grade copy, and no matter what, these big keys, like ASM 129, ASM 300, all these big Spider-Man keys, they're gonna sell no matter what. There's a lot of people building these sets, and they're willing to spend the money to get the books. So yeah, definitely a solid sale there at $349. So you go from 90s key to a more of a vintage book from Germany. This is Fantastic Four 48 and 49, printed in 1975, and these two I thought would have sold for higher than this. These sold for $154, so I think someone got a deal on these. The Galactus, the FF48 is technically a second print. This was printed by Williams in Germany, and there was another, well, actually I think it was still Williams, but it was called BSV Williams, and they were called Hit Comics, and they printed the Fantastic Four in the 60s. So I believe it was printed in 1966 or 67 originally, but they printed a FF48. It had all red cover and a really pretty interesting book. So those tend to sell for more. But this seemed like a good deal for these Williams German books. $154 for the two of those. I think I've seen both of those sell individually for close to that amount. So someone got a good deal on those. These use pretty much the American art with just translated text. And these German books, these Williams books, tend to have kind of like almost like a newsprint cover. So they're actually they're pretty easy to press. They press pretty well, and they are able to. You can find them in pretty high grade. Here we have a Dutch Secret Wars 8 sold for $100. This one is not one of the easier ones to find. I tend to see a lot of Brazilian Secret Wars 8. You see Italian Secret Wars 8, Spain. Those are all kind of the easier ones to find. But this Dutch one, I had one a long time ago, and I sold it when I shouldn't have, and I haven't been able to find another one. So this is kind of a high price for a foreign Secret Wars 8, but at least it's one of the harder ones to get. I would have no idea how to say that name in that Dutch word, whatever that is. I'm assuming it means Secret Wars, but yeah, it's a pretty crazy title on there. So I don't really know much about this book. It's a Golden Age Batman from Sweden. Pretty great looking book, cool cover. Not sure if that was a cover used on an American comic or not, or if it was just kind of an original cover for Sweden, or maybe an interior panel that they reused. But either way, it went for pretty big money, $405. When I looked at it, it looked to be in pretty high grade. So someone seven bids, so people were bidding on it. It's a beautiful book from 1952. We have Incredible Hulk 340, the Dutch edition, for $79. That was a pretty good sale. Like I said, the Dutch stuff, I don't think it's incredibly rare, but it just doesn't come to market, I guess, a ton. There is a Netherlands eBay, but there's just really not much on there, in the way of comics at least. So you really got to find someone that lives in the Netherlands to find you these books. If you found someone in the Netherlands to find this for you, they might have found it for $25, $40, somewhere around there. But on American eBay, there's always going to be a premium. So this person paid $79 for it. Looks to be in pretty nice shape though. All right, now to my favorite books, the Newtons from Australia. Here we have the Avengers 12. And sometimes it's tough to figure out if they're using the American numbering or the Australian Newton run numbering. But the classic Captain America cover has the poster inside, says fine condition. So this one sold for $100. So not too bad for more of a minor key. So this is Silver Surfer 4, classic Thor vs. Silver Surfer cover. This one tends to be pretty hard to find. I had a couple of them, both in pretty low grade, and I paid. And one had a poster, one didn't, and I think I paid over $100 a piece for them. So this one looks in better condition than the ones I have with the poster. So I'm kind of surprised this one didn't go even a little bit higher. Beautiful looking book, great classic cover. The Newtons really show off the colors are always kind of like oversaturated. So this is a really good looking book in person. All right, another Newton. This is one of the big boys, the Daredevil 1 that just sold. They listed it as very good fine condition. Went for $912. So once you pay for taxes and shipping from Australia, if the buyer's in America, it's about $1,000 book. So that's definitely these Newton number ones, like I said last market report, they're just hanging around that $1,000 mark. That's of course if they contain the poster and are in good condition. This one does, so it demands kind of the premium over one that would be incomplete without the poster. This is one I was bidding on, X-Men 94. This was on American eBay went for $30. I was hoping it was kind of a poor listing. So you never know. Some of these books that get listed kind of crappily, you can get them super cheap still. So for $30, somebody got this X-Men 94 from Mexico, published by Novedades in the 80s. This was actually, I think, one of the first foreign books I ever purchased. I think I bought one on eBay 4 or 5 years ago for $20. So, that kind of shows you. Most books I bought 5 years ago are now selling for 5x, and this one only went for $10 more. So I think if this one would have been posted with better information, a better title, better picture, it possibly could have gone much higher. So this is actually from German eBay. This was a Star Wars one that I ended up winning. I've been looking for one of these Star Wars ones from Germany for a while, and they pop up fairly frequently, but they're normally in really bad condition. So this one was pretty high grade, so I decided to go for it. And I think the last maybe first or second sales report I did, I showed one that sold on the American market for I think over $100. So I bought this on the German market for half the price. So I have to hope they ship it well and they actually use some cardboard somewhere in the packaging. But this was Star Wars 1 and 3 for $50. So here we have Edge of Spider-Verse 2, the land variant. This at one point was selling for close to $200 or even higher. So these Edge of Spider-Verse they yo-yo up and down. That's the Mexico edition. I've heard that the print run on these, this was obviously like the variant cover in America, but I heard it was like a 50-50 A cover. Half the print run was A cover, half the print run was the land variant. So it's not like these land variants are super rare compared to cover A, but I'd say it's more sought after. But $96, that seemed pretty cheap. I've got a couple of these I've thought about selling, including I've got a couple of the cover A as well. And to me, at the prices they're selling for right now, I'd rather just hold on to them rather than sell them. I think I had one listed on my Instagram at $60 and nobody bought it, so that's at that price. I'm just going to keep it, and I'm not going to go any lower than that. It'll be worth over 100 again, at some point in time. They were selling for over 100 not that long ago. Batman Adventures 12 from Spain. This one, looks like a decent copy. $110, that's not a bad deal. I bought one of these on American eBay a long time ago for $80. So, it hasn't gone up too much. I'm not sure what the condition on this one was. I can see spine ticks. These tend to be pretty rough, lots of color rub, lots of spine ticks. But for $110, that's not a bad deal. And it was printed right around the same time as the original Batman Adventures 12. So this is interesting. Green Lantern 1 from Germany. This kind of shows you how things can really vary in the market depending on timing. This was an auction, sold for $155. To me, this isn't really a very desirable book, kind of a goofy cover. I'm not a big Green Lantern fan, but this one went for $155 at auction on April 3rd. And on April 8th, Green Lantern #1 from Germany on American eBay went for $10. So it's a pretty huge price difference, and that's just kind of the thing with foreigns. You just get lucky sometimes. You get it super cheap. Other times you have to pay up. You got to just roll with the punches. Some books you're going to get cheap, others you're not. So this was a best offer accepted. They were asking $179 on American eBay. It's sold for $150. Amazing Spider-Man 129 from Germany. Classic cover. These tend to be in pretty decent shape. You can find a pretty high grade copy of this, so don't settle for a low grade copy. This is an interesting book. This is a Brazilian e-ball. This cover right here was the first appearance of Spider-Man in Brazil. Doesn't have any sort of key Spider-Man story inside. It's just a random Spider-Man story. Kind of a cool cover that they did in Brazil. It was presented in the Thor run. This one is a CBCS 7.0 that sold for $800. I'm not really sure why they put Amazing 15 in the title, and I guess just to attract more eyes on it. But yeah, it doesn't contain Amazing Fantasy 15 inside. These tend to sell for a lot in Brazil and, on the Brazilian market. So really, this price, $800, probably isn't too much more than what he paid for it, honestly. I've seen these sell, from anywhere from $300 to $500, on the foreign market. So $800, it's definitely a solid sale. But this isn't really a book I would consider a big key in America, because this is first Spider-Man in Brazil, not first Spider-Man that we're used to, which is, Amazing Fantasy 15. And then Brazil did use the ASM 1 cover at one point. So to me, that's the book that American collectors are going to go after more so than this. Here we have Daredevil 1 from Brazil. This is a real low-grade copy. The staples are completely rusted out and actually rusted through the cover. But besides that, it was a kind of a decent-looking copy, except for the issues with the staples. But $200, that's pretty cheap. That's less than I paid for my copy from Brazil, which was in better condition. But I bought it direct from Brazil. Whereas when you're buying on American eBay, you're normally going to spend at least double, normally, minimum. So it really, it pays to be able to source your own books, but sometimes good deals still come up. Here's a classic good deal that kind of slipped through. This contained 2 Avengers Newton comics, and it went for $267. The problem is that the listing, they didn't really explain which comics had the posters in them and which ones didn't. So unless you knew what poster was inside Avengers 1, you didn't know if it had the poster or not. So this one went for, a quarter of the price of what they've been going for. And it did have the poster inside. They just didn't, list it as such. So, kind of a bad listing, and that seller lost out on a lot of money because of it. And the book wasn't as nice as the other copies that have come up for sale lately. So, you got to take that into consideration, obviously, as well. So this is a book I actually won. I have a copy of this already, but I wanted an upgrade, and this is a pretty nice copy. So I spent, Australian Batman, I spent $333 plus shipping and taxes, so almost $400 on this. It's a magazine-sized book. I pretty much could have bought a nice, probably raw American version of it for that price, but this Australian version is just way rarer. I've only ever seen maybe 3 or 4 come up for sale in the last 5 years, and I own 2 of them now. I'll probably more than likely sell my Ender copy. That's just kind of what I try and do. I try and upgrade, and it's really what everyone that does comics should do is buy what you can and then upgrade it, and as prices rise, you sell your lower copy, and you're just kind of keeping the wheels rolling. Spider-Man 6 from Mexico is a pretty high-grade copy for such an old Mexican comic. $1,450, and Mexican comics just tend to bring the most money, especially the vintage La Prensa stuff. So that's a solid sale for that book. 6.5, so that's probably about as high as grade as you're going to find on that. I'd say anything over 6.0 from the 60s in Mexico is getting up there in grade. Let me just turn this. What did I do? All right. So these are just some just kind of random DC, not really keys or anything, but they're just Silver Age DC books that sold for $100 a piece. I thought that was a pretty strong sale for just some not being key books. So $100 a piece on those. Then we've got Wonder Woman, first appearance of Nubia, pretty rough condition. That went for $115, so it's a solid sale. Spawn 1 from the Netherlands, another Netherlands book, $86. That's pretty high sale for a Spawn number 1. Typically, I know Spawn 1s have kind of increased in value lately, and I think there's quite a few people that are building the Spawn 1 set, but $86 is a pretty solid price for a Spawn 1. Tomb of Dracula 1 from Sweden, kind of a weird cover. They kind of zoomed in and changed the background art some. You got Hulk on the cover also. And this one was printed in 1982, so it's not really like a vintage comic or anything. It's not really that close to the original print date, but still a cool book. And for $79, someone that doesn't have somebody in Europe that can help them find books, it's probably not a bad deal. That's the one we talked about already. All right, so this is kind of an interesting sale. I saw this, I couldn't believe the Italian would sell for that much. It's a Ultimate Spider-Man 1 Pacelli variant. Best offer accepted, so the offer was $4,500, so I'm sure the seller jumped on it. But then this book was relisted just within a day. And this is kind of a problem that people that sell foreign comics have, especially modern foreigns, is that people don't take the time to read the title. They don't take the time to read the description. They just hit buy when they see a good deal or they put an offer in. And then after the fact, they realize, oh crap, that's the Italian variant, that's the Spanish variant, and they didn't want the foreign edition. They wanted the normal American copy, and they thought they could get it for a steal of a price. So I've had that happen to me a bunch of times on eBay when I'm selling a modern book, and it's like, you're like, oh, something sold good, and then within 10 minutes, all of a sudden you get a return before you can even print out a label for the book. So it's just kind of part of it. So I'm sure this seller was bummed because that would have been a huge sale if it was actually real. This book you can probably find for $100 or less, maybe. I'm not sure how rare it is on the Italian market, but I would think it wouldn't be that hard to find. So $5,000, even though it is a 9.8, is a pretty strong price. We got an X-Men 266 from Italy. It says near mint, very fine. $64. This is, if you're an X-Men fan, this is a great set to build. I think there's only 6 foreign editions, and they're not incredibly hard to find. So it's a good set to set a goal and be able to complete probably within a year or less if you're really driven to do it. Let's see. Wolverine 1 Italian edition, $59. It's a solid sale. There's quite a few guys building this set as well. Star Wars High Republic 1, these kind of are finally starting to move a little bit again, and I think there was a huge rush of people importing these from mainly Italy, and then the prices kind of dipped because all these comic shops that have nothing to do with foreign comics, all of a sudden we're importing all these Delato variants from Italy and Germany, other countries, France. So they kind of flooded the market. But I think now they're kind of starting to creep back up a little bit in price. I think I've got a couple. I think I've got the Italian and the Mexican. I really don't know much about Star Wars High Republic. I just thought it was a good cover, so I figured I might as well have a couple of them. This is kind of a random Captain Marvel Jr. Went for $225. It's a pretty high grade for an old Mexican book. I don't have any clue about Captain Marvel Jr., but for $225, someone was interested in it. Here we have Stan Lee Spider-Man 678, signed. It looks like a raw book, so it's not CGC or anything. But sold for $255. So in this book I've seen sell in the past for $50, $60. So that Stanley signature added about $200 to the value. And it's just cool to have a foreign comic with Stanley's signature on it, because probably back when he was alive there wasn't too many people getting his signatures on foreigns. I've seen a few, but not a ton. So $255, 33 bids. People were going after it on this one. Here we have the ASM 300 foil Mexican cover. This is more of a recent print, but it definitely, and it's a reprint actually, because they have a vintage ASM 300 from Mexico. But this one is foil, and it kind of almost is like the poor man's chromium cover. So it's a beautiful book. I wish they would have brought the 300s all the way out to the borders, so it didn't have that kind of black box around it. But for $70, it's a solid sale. If you knew someone in Mexico, you might be able to find it for $20, $30. But for a sale on American eBay, $70 is not too bad. Another one, J. Scott Campbell, Wolverine. This one, is one of those books where it's high grade. Graded copy of this is going to be in the thousands and thousands of dollars, whereas you can just go, nobody's reading these books for the stories inside. This is just cover play, so why not just get the Mexican version for a fraction of the price? It looks pretty much the exact same. These, probably you're not going to find too many 9/8 of these, just because Mexican books tend to have a little bit more wear and tear on them. But still, same exact cover, still a cool looking book, and at a more of a budget price than trying to buy the American. So this is, I showed you that land variant earlier that sold for cheap, and here we have the main cover that actually went for $150. So like I said, these Edge of Spider-Verse 2s and Ultimate Fallout 4s, they really bounce around in price. You might get one day that's selling for $150, and then you got my copy that's out on eBay for $60 and no one bought it, and then I just pulled it off. So it's just kind of having the right eyes on it at the right time. And obviously this one may be in much better condition than mine. It's tough to tell from that picture, but $150, that's definitely a strong sale for the cover A Mexican. And here's a land variant that went for half of that, $70. And it says mid-grade. You can see it has some wear on the staple, but still, that's it's a beautiful cover and pretty sought after book. So I thought it would go for a little bit more than $70. This was kind of a random book from Spain, X-Men SHATTERSHOT, complete volume, SAGA, first print. For $75 with $30 shipping. I'm not really even sure what this book is. I'm assuming it's like a trade paperback that contains the full SHATTERSHOT storyline. But $75, that's a pretty strong price. One thing I've noticed selling foreign comics is there's a large Spanish-speaking population in America, and a lot of them want to be able to read comics in Spanish. So I live in Florida, and there's obviously a lot of Spanish-speaking people here from Puerto Rico and Cuba, Mexico. I have a lot of sales in Florida, a lot of sales in Texas, a lot of sales in New York, a lot of sales in California, kind of like historically places where Spanish-speaking people immigrate to, and I think they just love comic books, and they want to read it in Spanish. So I think that kind of maybe is the reason why this sold so high. I'm not really too sure, but could be a reason, because I would think this is probably a $5 book on the Spanish market. So we've got a Fantastic 452 signed by Stan Lee, a 9.2, so that's definitely a high grade, and signed by Stan Lee, graded CGC. They were asking almost $6,000 for it, but they took $800 for it. So a pretty huge price drop, but still a strong sale. That would be a really cool book to have, I think. With Stan Lee's signature on it, you're not going to get any more of those. So, definitely a cool piece of foreign comic history. All right, so talked about that already. So here's one without Stanley's signature that went for $104. So that's a pretty solid sale for this. It looks like to be in pretty high grade. I think when I was pretty heavily selling and importing books, I think I was selling these for like $50, $60. So $104, it's about double what they were selling for a couple years ago. So that's good. They're creeping up in value, and as the number of comics of these keys drops in Germany, they're only going to go up in value as more and more people buy them in the U.S. and around the world. So, $104, I think that's a pretty solid sale. So the thing you got to remember about some of these German books is that they're actually second prints. So this is the Williams version that sold for $104. Here's the hit copy, the hit comics version from the 60s that sold for $99. And obviously it looks to be a much lower grade, but I think anyone would want the original print over the kind of second print. And the art is different. They got Black Panther super blacked out. The colors are super dark compared to this one, which is kind of more of a grayed out cover. This one was printed in 1975 compared to this one being in 1967. So definitely the hit comics version, if you can find a nice copy, that would be the one I would go for. But still, the other one, the Williams, is still a great book to have too. This one's a pretty high sale for the Spider-Man 101 from Germany. These were very common for a long time. You could just buy 5 of them at one time off German eBay if you wanted to for $5 a piece, and then get them shipped over to the U.S. So this was a strong sale, $105. I'm not sure if this maybe came out like right around, I'm not sure when the movie opened, but April 3rd, and I don't know. It might have been right when the movie was about to open. So $105, that's definitely a solid sale for that one. Another Spider-Man 129 from Germany, first appearance of the Punisher, 202. So that's definitely a strong sale, because on this one you can see it has a tear at the top there. So yeah, $202. So yeah, these like one ASM 129s, all these books that people are building these sets of, those books are the ones you really want to invest in, because they are continually increasing in price. All right, so here's the hit version of the Spider-Man 101. So this one went for $120. So just a tiny little premium over the Williams version, but this one was actually printed in the 60s, and would be considered the first print over the Williams version, which would be the second print. I kind of actually prefer the Williams version because it has the whole cover on there, but still a cool book, and $120, not a bad price. It looks to be in pretty decent condition. Another 129 that went for $200. This one looks to be higher grade than the last one I showed. Possibly it was sold from a U.S. seller because it was $7 shipping. And I think this is the last one, Batman Adventures 12 from Germany. This is a pretty high grade copy, 9.0 white pages. Sold for $450. So that was a solid sale. And a lot of these Batman Adventure 12 books, kind of the foreign editions seem to be down in price right now. There's not a ton of interest in Batman Adventures 12 from what I've seen. But you never know. I had a Argentinian Batman Adventures 12 that I just sold on my Instagram for $200, and that's considered one of the more rare versions of it. I probably could have sold it for more to the right person, but I had upgraded. I just got a nicer copy, so for me, rather than just spend weeks or months trying to sell a book at a premium, I'll just let it go, leave some meat on the bone, and someone will be happy with what they get. But yeah, these German Batman Adventure 12, they're not super rare, and the German people tend to take decent care of their books, but it's still a tough book to get above 9.0 or better. So someone wanted a nice copy and they paid up for it. And I think that is it for right now. So I will keep an eye on the market. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these videos probably about 15 minutes or less. I'll probably end up doing it maybe every week, every other week. We'll just have to kind of see what kind of sales are going on. But I will keep an eye on the market, and I'll let you guys know. All right, thanks, bye.